on, all you killers out there. So what I'm going to be doing today is doing a review on a bunch of different pizzas in the Binghamton area. I'm going to be using this meat thermometer to measure the temperature of all these different pizzas. Another thing that you will get is the price points. The thing is, with quality, because it's subjective, I'm just going to be tasting it and telling you what I think. So I'm not going to really do a rating. Some people like to do ratings like, oh, it's a 7.7 out of 10. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to tell you what it's like, because some people like, Jim Roma's, even though it's a colder pizza. And that's not personally my style. Some people like a thick crust. Some people like a thin crust. So I'm just going to tell you what all these properties are. There are certain pizza places that I will and will not review. I will review local places. What is off limits? Pizza Hut. No, not going to review it. People can get that anywhere in the country pretty much. And I'm not going to review Pizza Hut because it's not a testament to what Binghamton and Endicott have to offer. And that's part of the history of this town. It's getting into that. That's what travel's about. Even though I'm in an area that's not far from where I live, I'm still driving around, I'm still exploring. I think this is all fair game. All right, so first stop,
Jim Roma's Bakery, and we'll try their pizza today.
this is a lot bigger than I remember. Let's see how it tastes. A little bit unwieldy. The sauce tastes a little bit like SpaghettiO sauce, which is, I think, what Sbarro honestly uses. It's got a very kind of chewy crust. It's not crunchy at all. Very doughy. But honestly, it's okay. I think I've definitely had better pizza in my life, but for some reason, 94-degree pizza is just not hot enough. I don't think they use the freshest ingredients, but if I were stranded on a desert island for several days, and this is what I got to eat as my first meal, I don't think I'd be complaining, but not my favorite.
All right, our next stop is Rossi's.
We have this slice for $1.30. When I had this a few years back, I found that Rossi's kind of reminded me of DiGiorno with thicker crust, and then I found out they were in the frozen pizza game. So that's significantly hotter than Roma's pizza. Let's see if that's too hot for my mouth. It's not. This is good. I think this is better than Roma's. The cheese is a little bit crisper, and it's not feeling goopy. The fact that it is half the size of Roma's pizza makes it much easier to eat. You hear that crunch, and that's the cheese. The dough is firm but soft. Very good. All right, more pizza coming up.
All right, our next stop is in Binghamton. Pizzania's is next to Abel's Pub on the corner of Rotary and Seminary.
When I'm taking a look at the bottom here, I don't see any bleed through. The crust actually looks like it's flavorful, and this came out to an even $2. So a little bit hotter than the Rossi's. Granted, this pizza was reheated. Can we fold it? Yes, we can. All right, that's a good sign. This is feeling nice and soft. There's a very thin crust, but a lot of cheese. I think they actually might have upped their game since I last ate here. The cheese and the sauce are pretty good. How about the crust? Yeah, this is actually pretty good. And it's at a hole-in-the-wall place. Oh, it's starting to drip. So yeah, this is actually pretty good pizza. Normally I'd think that was overcooked, but this is good. It's solid. It's solid.
Our next stop is New York Pizzeria, which I consider to be one of the best because it has a lot of variety. But keep in mind, this is a cheese pizza review only.
All right, everyone, this is New York Pizzeria. They seem to have some sort of special process and a routine for storing the dough that helps it retain the flavor. It's one of those pizzas where I have one slice and then I just want another slice. But yeah, this is a pretty generous portion. Now that we're ready with that, I can definitely taste a seasoning here. This part is very dark brown, so I'm wondering if it might be overcooked a little bit. The sauce is very good. It's well seasoned. It just seems like a very well balanced pizza here. Right amount of cheese, right amount of sauce, right amount of dough. And honestly, you can eat the crust. And it's not a kind of crust where you just give up and throw it out. They really do a good job of retaining the flavor. I thought I would add that when you get to the crust here, it begins to get thicker and doughier, and it's just delightful because you honestly feel like you're eating an Italian bread thing. You could honestly eat the bread by itself. That's how you know this is very good pizza. So definitely just go to New York Pizza and just try a bunch of different flavors. They're awesome.
All right, our next stop is Micheles Pizzeria and Ristorante on the east side of Binghamton.
This is a pretty generous portion. Came to the exact same price as New York Pizzeria. It is very hot, folks. This is not something you want to put in your mouth right away. It's the hottest pizza we've had yet. The crust seems very crunchy. I'm not sure I'm going to be a huge fan of that. Does look very similar to a New York Pizzeria pizza. It's triangular. The coloring on the bottom is very similar. Very little bleed through. So I'm just gonna let that settle down because it's way too hot to be consumed. It's cooled down to a more reasonable temperature. We're gonna try it out now. It's good. I think it's a much more reddish color than New York Pizzeria, but it's fairly comparable. The bread at New York Pizza is definitely better. It's good cheese. I think it's a little drippier than the other ones. I think it's also cheesier than New York Pizzeria. Let's try the crust. No, the crust is overcooked. It's not even worth eating. There's no way this can beat New York Pizzeria, but the flavor is very good. This might be a better cheese pizza in terms of the sauce and the cheese, but it just cannot beat New York Pizza in the bread. And when you are having to throw out, a good portion, like this portion here, they're the same price, you might as well go with New York Pizzeria. Now that I know this crust is just gonna suck, it kind of ruins it. You can definitely see there's a lot of cheese in there. Solid pizza, but the crust is just kind of a disappointment.
Our next stop is Paul & Sons Pizza on Leroy Street in Binghamton.
All right, we have here Paul & Sons Pizza. There's not only what looks like mozzarella cheese, but little flakes of Parmesan and I think oregano. It's very heavy with seasonings, but not overly so. And it's also very cheesy. The crust is fairly thin. It's got a dark brown color to it. And there's just little tiny specks of cornmeal or polenta or whatever. This is actually pretty good. And here is the crust. Let's see how flavorful Paul & Sons crust is. It's actually not bad. It is better than I remember. This is better than Michelangelo's pizza. The sauce tastes fresh. You also get kind of a crunchy corn flavor at the end, which is actually kind of pleasant. Good job.
Our next stop is Nurchi's Pizza. There are multiple locations, but this one's on the west side.
One thing that is well known about Nurchi's is they have a variety of different flavors. Chicken bacon ranch, Rockland, I think they have a barbecue chicken. So they have a bunch of different flavors. And there's multiple locations in the Binghamton area. Let's take a look and compare it to the Rossi's Pizza. So I keep track of all this stuff. We have this pizza here. Here's Rossi's. This one is just a little bit bigger. From here to here is what Nurchi's added to Rossi's size, basically. Let's see, is it worth the extra 20 cents from Rossi's? That's good. I mean, for the price. The cheese reminds me of a Costco pizza, because you can see these brown spots, and I like that. I think it's pretty solid pizza for the price. And again, they got a bunch of different flavors, so take a bite of the crust here. Yeah, totally edible. So as far as the low-end pizzas go, this is a good choice.
Our next slice is from Nick's Pizza and Restaurant.
All right, here we have Nick's Pizza. Inside the restaurant, there's a really nice ambiance. It's not just pizza. It is a sit-down restaurant as well. So I went there, and I'm pretty sure it just had pizza. But it is a nice pizza. And that is definitely warmer than Jim Roma's, but colder than the other ones by like 20 degrees. So, but even at 118 degrees, that's not too cold. It's definitely very cheesy. This is the bread, that's the cheese, and that's all right for the crust. But yeah, this is definitely very cheesy. Something just like a little bit of a red pepper flavor, which might have happened because it was touching red pepper at some point. This is definitely smaller than Michelangelo's. So Michelangelo's would go here. This is where Nick's is. They're probably better known for the restaurant part of the different Italian meals. The crust is okay. It's definitely better than Michelangelo's crust, but not as flavorful as New York Pizzeria, and not as soft and chewy as Nurchi's. I'm not sure I would put this anywhere at first place. Fine pizza. It's just, I don't think it's the best in town. So, if you notice, there's quite a bit of separation between the cheese and the actual bread. I don't know what that means from a spiritual sense, but definitely not number one, but it's okay. There's Antonia's Bar and Trattoria, and for $10 you can get a delicious chicken thing that's awesome. As I said, Trattoria or die.
All right, our next stop is Joey's Pizza and Italian Ice.
I already measured the temperature of this pizza, so we're gonna let that cool down for a little bit before we put this thing in our mouth that is not appropriate for human consumption. As you can see here, we have pretty even coloring on the bottom of the pizza. Some wild colors here. A lot of sauce that is clumped up right over here. It is super greasy on top. It's dripping right now. No. It seems pretty sauce heavy. I feel like I'm tasting notes of fennel or something in there that reminds me of pepperoni. I feel like when I've had an entire pie, I really enjoy that. If you really want the Joey's experience, get one of those specialty pizzas. The Quattro Formaggi is very good if you just want something simple and plain. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it too well, but there is a part there where I feel like I'm picking up all the grease. Like there is a pool of it that'll just keep dripping out. If you're one of those people who dabs off the grease when they eat a pizza, you're gonna have to do that for this one. It's pretty greasy. Not feeling too optimistic about the crust here. It is kind of hard. Yeah, not the best, but the rest of the pizza is solid. It's just so greasy. This might be one of the greasiest pizzas I've had because my plate is just dripping with all this cheese juice. That is definitely very good mozzarella. It just feels like every time I take a bite, I'm worried about something falling out. Something fell out. So this is a pretty messy pizza. I mean, there's just like so much sauce. And they don't really chop up the tomato that well. I know most people think about, oh, the flavor, the texture. Now we got to deal with ease of use, okay? And like, it's like, you know what I mean? So it's like one of those things you just squeeze it right out yeah, see, it just falls out right like that. If you bring your grandmother to a restaurant and she doesn't like, you know, all these tomato brains flying out of her pizza, you might want to go to Nurchi's. But it's just like the bread is a pretense for just scooping up this non-spicy salsa type thing. You know, my viewers will probably think, John, you're making a big fuss about something that's not even that important. This is a wild, wacky pizza here, you know? It's pregnant with tomato sauce. All right, enough metaphors, folks. Enough similes. And it's good.
Our next stop is Tony's Italian Grill in Endicott.
Here is Tony's Pizza, reheated. They use brick oven pizza. When I had this a few years ago, I thought it was one of the better pizzas. Very, very hot. We're gonna let that cool down before we put this in our mouth. Final pizza of my review. The crust is pretty crunchy. Sauce is not great. It's not as good as I remember. Let me try the crust here. No. You hear that? It's not a good sign. I was just eating like a crouton. And the bread is okay, except for the crust. The sauce doesn't taste completely fresh. The cheese doesn't taste particularly fresh either, but that's it. All right, so coming up will be my rundown of all the prices and all the degrees so that you can compare them. For our temperature, Tony's, Michelangelo's, and Joey's were clearly leading the pack. Tony's with 181.2 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a huge increase from Jim Roma's of 94 degrees Fahrenheit. As for our total price, it is clear that Paul & Sons has the lead at $2.70, and the least expensive pizza was Rossi's at $1.30. Now, to put that in perspective, let's see what the price per square inch is. We see that Michelangelo's is indeed the cheapest per square inch of 5 cents per square inch, and Paul & Sons is the most expensive at 11 cents per square inch. Keep in mind, they are an artisanal pizza, so they are going to have an artisanal price. And I want to thank everybody for watching, and please make sure to subscribe to get more content.